Hey YouTube, Alden here, bringing you my bow gank build. I'm really excited to bring this one because I've been having a tremendous amount of fun and it's been very, very effective. It's slightly different than a lot of builds out there already. The big thing here is that it does not include or does not use Clever Alchemist, which gives it great escapability and gets very comparable output to Clever, maybe just slightly less. So without further ado, let's get into some stats. Starting here, you can see got around 14.5k magicka, got 16.7k health, and 33.7k stam. What I'll say is the obvious. This is a gank build. This is not meant for you to go in and go toe to toe and take on 15 people with a fight that lasts forever. This build is made to gank, get in close to the action, and pick off people when you've got a good shot. Recovery is very respectable, 1400 for a gank build. That's quite good, and allows you to get in while in stealth and travel around in stealth without too much trouble, without having to sit on the sidelines constantly. Weapon damage is right at 2.8k. However, I will tell you this is extremely misleading. There's quite a bit of damage that's not in this tooltip. Weapon crit right at 48%, which isn't bad. Spell resistant and physical resistance in 11k's range. We're using medium, so it's no surprise. And then I'm using the Shadow Mundus to get the improved critical damage, 16%. And then of course I'm using Vampire for all the reasons: improved recovery, improved damage mitigation once you get down to lower health, and of course the elimination of the sneak penalty. On food, I am using this here for CP campaigns. I find in the CP campaigns I've got enough recovery to get me around. So I'm using max magicka and stam. If you wanted, you could use this, which would give you a little bit more health and get you up to that 19-20k. You'd lose a little bit of max stam and magicka, wouldn't be terrible, but I find I do quite fine without it. And then if you're in a non-CP campaign, I would use this recovery, because your recovery is just going to fall down to the 900 range, and that really does become challenging if you spend a lot of time in sneak. Getting into the gear sets, the obvious one is of course marksman. Great set, gives stam recovery, gives some weapon damage, and on top of that, on the fifth item there, it reduces your stam abilities by 5%. And it increases your bow abilities against players by 8%, which is awesome. Obviously, I'm using sharpened. That's the best for damage in PvP. And then you'll notice that I'm using these poisons here. It's a double tick poison. Those are really fantastic. Got to credit Baker of Cakes. He's got a video out on best in slot poisons and potions, and I pulled this from him. Really enjoy it. On the next set, I am using the Automaton. This is a fantastic set that you get from Darkshade Caverns. What makes this so good is that it's got 386. If I had this up to gold, it would be at 400 on all of your physical damage abilities. So anything that is basically using stam, with the exception of poison, this is going to get applied to. It's so much better than a lot of the sets out there where it's only on this or only on that. It also gives health, which is similar to Clever. But here you get some stamina, which is going to add to your weapon damage, and then some actual weapon damage. So that 933, basically you divide by, I think it's 10.45 or something like that, but if you divide by 10, you basically got 90 weapon damage that's coming away from that stamina. You add that to the weapon damage of 124, basically that's 210, and then you add that to the 400 weapon damage if you had this all the way up to gold, and you're basically about 100, maybe 120 weapon damage short of Clever Alchemist, but it's on all the time, not just in little 15-second increments. And on top of that, you have the ability to use potions, which, you know, as a Nightblade, your goal is to not get caught. And I tell you, I use invisibility potions like they are going out of style. They make escaping very, 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 very effective. So I'm using automaton, 4 pieces of clothing here. I got 2 marksmen, and then I got 1 valley up here for the weapon damage. Honestly, you could basically go, 5 automaton, and then 1 marksman, and then you could go 3 jewelry if you wanted. That would work just fine. The thing about marksman is that it's really, really cheap. If you needed to, you get automaton from Darkshade Cavern. Now, because you'll notice I do have 1 jewelry piece, but you don't have to do that. And neither one of my weapons are automaton. You can get this from the first 3 bosses. Basically, there's a mini boss in there, and I think there's a couple of bosses. You just go and rotate that. You can solo the lower level, the normal level, and then you basically just use one of your alts that crafts to get it up to gold or purple. I just haven't spent the money yet to the gold to get it all the way up to gold. And I think that's it. We'll come back and we'll talk about the damage, but you know, just real quick, you've got 2,800 there. You add on the 400, it's 386, but round it for 400. That's 28 plus 4, it's 32. Then you're going to have an 8% bonus. So unbuffed, this is pretty darn high. When we buff it up, you can see you're all the way up to 3,400. You add this 400 on top of that, and you're basically talking 3,800 plus the 8%, and you're really banging on that 4,000 weapon damage. Really, really great. And of course, you got 51% weapon critical. Talk about the skills. My first bar I use for buffs and movement. Shadowy Disguise, bread and butter for any Nightblade. You're going to have Radiant Mage Light. Going into the Mage's Guild, this is a Mage's Guild skill. I'm using it for Might of the Guild, which gives you an extra 20% on the next attack. Rally, which gives 20% weapon damage buff for 33 seconds. It's also my primary heal. I'm using Concealed Weapon for the improvement to movement speed to get in and out of position. And then I'm using Relentless Focus, again for Minor Berserk. That's an extra 8%. We're going to talk about all the buffs here in a minute. But also I get a weapon, I get a stamina recovery by 10% for 20 seconds. So it's not bad. Moving to the damage bar. I'm using Focused Aim, which is a morph of Snipe. You'll notice Focus Aim, physical damage. You'll also notice that it's 14. That's really misleading. When we do this and we buff up, you'll notice I'm now, hang on, that's not quite right. Do I have all my buffs up? No, I don't have food. So let's try this again. There we go. You'll see right at 21,000 physical damage, just hits like a Mack truck. You can oftentimes get this to crit and one-shot the lower health point folks, but really does incredible damage. We've got ambush in there, and I'm going to talk about this when we talk about rotations, but obviously most of the time you're going to be using this for a long range damage rotation on the skills and abilities, but every now and then you're going to run across a player who's in stealth or just happens to be right in front of you. It is not the best to use the long range rotation because you're just going to find it's too slow. In this case, I'm going to use ambush to finish off a player, and then we'll talk about the final piece. Using Camouflage Hunter, great skill. Going to add some weapon critical. That's how I'm getting all the way up to 50%. So we'll talk about the other bonus passive that we're getting. Poison Injection. This is a fantastic skill. What you'll notice is that it is the bow skill lines execute. So when this gets applied, more than likely your opponent is going to be under 10% health, because what we're gonna do is we're gonna fire off 2 consecutive focus aims. So this will very likely crit for around 15k when because it's it's at 21, you'll get some crit on there because it's 50% chance. One of the 2 will be around 15, the other one will be 10. If you get lucky, you'll probably have 2 around 15, but somewhere in that range. Basically, that's 25k. You're going to pop them with an immediate poison injection. So focus aim with a animation cancel, poison injection. And then, by this point, most players are going to be down to the 10 to 5% health range. And what happens, you can see, damage over time, up to 260% more to enemies under health. And what you normally got to realize is that to get up to 260, you got to have the player basically down to the bare minimum health. But after 2 focused aims, they're basically going to be there. Oftentimes, the ticks, which can go all the way up to, I've seen it tick on actual players for 2.5, 2.4k. Basically, a lot of times, even if they're doing a heal, it'll finish them off. And then just in case, if I need to do some long range damage, I'll pop them with some silver bolts. Pretty good damage there, 8k. But what is good to see about our long range abilities is the distance. Focused aim comes in at 48 meters. Poison injection, 41 meters, and silver bolts, 41 meters. That means you can be really far away, and folks will have to do quite a bit of searching. Maybe they're lucky they get to see you, but this gives you a lot of options to basically knock down a player, one-shot them, so to speak, and then basically get out before anybody even knows where you're at. And when you talk about those other typical Nightblade sets, that means you got to basically get in there and you got to be right in the mix of folks. And anytime you got multiple players, it's going to be iffy for you to get out of there without getting caught. That problem really doesn't exist too often when you're 41 meters out, right? And then finally we got Flawless Dawnbreaker. Now, you might ask, why these 3 abilities? Well, I'm using the Fighters Guild abilities. They come from here. And I'm using it for this Slayer passive, right? Each one of these Fighter Guild abilities increases weapon damage by 3%. You can see current bonus, 9% weapon bonus. And then on top of that, I have more Flawless Dawnbreaker to give me the additional weapon damage. So I get the 9% plus the 5%, right? And here in a second, we're going to go through all the buffs. Now, I could put one of these down here, and I could get an additional 3%. I could take that 9 to 12%. But I have this in here for short range attacks. Our long range attack would be 2 focused aims, a poison injection. That'll get most players, but if you need one, you hit them with a silver bolt. For a short range player, maybe you come across somebody, you pull somebody out of stealth, or you just happen to have somebody right in front of you. At that point, you're going to use one focused aim, one poison injection, followed by an immediate ambush, and then you're going to use Flawless Dawnbreaker, which again, using physical damage with an additional physical damage over 5 seconds. So, you know, whenever you have a single target, short range, really this combo really does a number, knocks out most players. Okay, so just real quick, I want to talk about the passives. You're going to see, obviously, there's just a lot here stacking. You've got, here's the assassination. I've got ambush. I'm getting critical damage increased by having this critted. I'm also getting weapon and spell crit. Because we're going to do this from stealth, we get the crit here from sneak. But this is the big one right here. You get long shot. Whenever you're on a long range deal, which is where you're going to be, you're going to get a 12% bonus on enemies. That's pretty darn huge. Then you come down here, you got your Fighters Guild, you get your 9%, plus you get your 5% here. You're going to get your Mages Guild 20% here. Then you're going to get all your buffs. You got 20% weapon damage here from Major Brutality. Then you got another 8% on Minor Berserk. And then let's not forget, you're going to get another 8% against players for your Marksman Bow. Right there it is. So really, you are really stacking and does a lot of damage. Just go to the champion points real quick. Really, you can do this however you want. The most important ones are here. You can see I got 100 in Mighty, 18 in Piercing, 70 in Precise Strikes. Real quick, I've got Crit Resistance, 36 here. I've got Elemental Defender, Hardy. Got a little bit in Thick Skinned. I've got nothing here, not using any shield, so it's not really important. I got 48 in the Warlord. I got 35 in the Tenacity. Really, those go hand in hand. And then I've got, oh sorry, this one here, Mooncalf. That's the one where your stamina recovery. This is for heavy attacks. Frankly, I should probably take this out. I'm not really doing a lot of heavy attacks here, so I could probably take that out. I do have 65 taking out roll damage. And then I probably should take this out, and I'll probably move that to shade to reduce the cost of stamina while moving in stealth. Alright, next what we'll do is we'll move over and show you some of this in action, and you can see how it works. Okay, so here we've got the first compilation. This is just a basic snipes. But you can see the classic focus aim, 2 shots followed by the poison injection. And then we roll off, and then I think I come back, pick off one more before heading to a different area. A lot of times what you'll find is that I'll actually hit the target and then immediately start running away. If I think they're beefy and it's pretty calm, I'll maybe stay and try and finish them off, but most of the time I'm hitting and going and getting out before I get noticed. And if I do get noticed, like here, you'll see I pop pot immediately. Here's a good example of one where everything goes right except you got some healers nearby. You can see I've got this guy at the very, very bottom, but a healer comes in, see that beam, and he's right back to full health. The other challenges is oftentimes the landscape doesn't make things easy. Here I've got a guy, but I know that foliage is in the way, and trying to chase him down is basically going to be a waste of time. Here we've got a guy, pop, quick pop. Here we've got a compilation of a short range attack. I'm doing messing around here, and then as I'm walking around you'll see me run into somebody, and I'll use the short range combo, which is basically focus aim, poison inject, ambush, followed by a Dawnbreaker. You see the guy's got just under 25,000 health, Dawnbreaker, and then I get detected by that Templar, and here I pop a invisibility, gives me just a couple of seconds just to get around the corner, and then I can disappear. And somehow, by some miracle, I'm able to get out. Here's a good video of an attack. This guy's got like 29,000 health, and it's a good example of the damage this build can do. I'm actually pretty lucky the other guy doesn't get in the way of the shot, but I do get it, and I'm able to get the escape. Here's a couple more examples of just some basics. This guy's just kind of hanging out on the front porch, and unfortunately that's not always the best strategy. This is a great example of what Poison Inject can do. Here the guy, Carador, does a great job. He's like blocking, right? He immediately hops off. He's obviously a very skilled player. But look at the Poison Injection. 3.7k, 4.5, and then you can see Poison Inject finally finishes it off. It's really a pretty powerful skill. And then this final clip here, I'm going to let this just kind of run. You can see this is on the non-CP campaign from last week. And you can see I just had a lot of fun picking off riders as they go by. It's always a good time. So, hope you enjoy. Thanks for watching.